morning, welcome. Notice you can see my feet underneath that opening screen. I'm getting on the bike, starting to pedal a little bit. Well, let's go ahead and get ourselves ready, shall we? Adjust your resistance so it's really light on the bike. Very light, but with at least a little bit on. Feel free to sit up like I am. Just relax your upper body, allowing the arms to fall to the side, releasing all the tension in the shoulders and the neck. Turning the legs very slowly and easily. And if you can't notice the weight of your upper body being held by the spine, tune into that, you can really sense that, especially when we're sitting up like that and seated on the saddle. We can relax the belly. And now let's move our arms down to the handlebars. Make sure that our shoulders stay relaxed and away from our ears. And we're thinking about just resting our hands on the bars. Noticing where in our hands we feel the weight of the upper body leaning out onto the handlebars. Now we can bring our leg speed up 80 or 90 RPM, somewhere in that range. And I want us to just work on making smooth pedal strokes right now. We're warming up the legs. But as we do that with this light resistance and this moderate pedal speed, we can think about how we can distribute the work through the whole circle of the pedal stroke. We can think about being smooth with that motion. The hips stay nice and settled on the saddle. They're active, yeah, a little bit. But there's not that bouncing up and down on the saddle. And I was just noticing as I saw my video, you'll notice that my knees go in. We don't talk about this very much, but you see that inward angle of the knee? That's kind of an old-fashioned way of pedaling, and it's perfectly fine if it matches up with how your legs work. Of course, the hips are wider than the knees are. So that's perfectly acceptable. What we don't want are the legs out like this. It looks funny. At least have them straight or inward like this. Helps the hips more evenly apply pressure through the length of the bone. femur. Alright, so we're pedaling along at 80 RPM or so, and we're trying to think about creating beautiful smooth circles. And remember, an important part of that is that scraping mud off the ball of the foot, or as we sometimes talk about, extending the pedal stroke. Extending down and through, rather than jabbing at the pedals with the quadriceps. Beautiful. Take another deep breath. You should feel your heart rate coming up just a little bit right now. Breathing picking up just a little bit. And of course your muscles starting to feel a little bit better as well. So notice all those things right now as we just loosen up a little. Let's go ahead and speed up our legs. Let's make sure we're at 90 or even higher, 95 RPM. And if you don't have a computer, that's perfectly acceptable. Just match my pedal speed. I'll show you the general range. I don't have a computer either, but I know what the different pedal speeds feel like. I always notice that the hips want to bounce more on the saddle the faster I pedal, which then causes me to more intentionally settle my weight and relax my shoulders and hands, because carrying tension in the hands, elbows, and shoulders creates this rigid part of the triangle that gets transferred down the spine into the hips. Alright, let's let our legs slow down. And let's sit up again. Shake out the shoulders, shake out the arms. Let the weight pull your shoulders down, feel it in the neck. Yeah, my breath has picked up a little bit from when we first started. So we're going to settle into a flat road kind of effort here. But in keeping with the thinking of a real bike, it's going to be the same kind of RPM, but we're going to shift gears into a harder gear, thus making the bike travel faster along the road, thus being harder work. And we're going to settle into it just a little bit. Build up some warmth, build up some kind of suppleness in the legs. Get that heart rate up a little bit. So let's return to our handlebars. Get our legs back to around 90 RPM. And now, shifting gears, i.e. adding resistance, go to a couple gears harder and bring your leg speed to 90 RPM. And you'll notice immediately the feeling in the quads for sure, but also the calves and the hamstrings as we pull through the bottom part of the pedal stroke. And then the hips, as we push over the top, are now much more noticeable. Yeah, I'm definitely in a working zone right now. And usually at the start of the work on the bike, the muscles don't feel that great. But we have to trust that if we stay with this, there'll be a bit of a transformation in that feeling. At just this second, I noticed that my breathing was picking up. What's happening now in your muscles? It's a different feeling now, isn't it? Let's try this together. Let's try this decoupling exercise where we sit up. Same exact effort I was just doing. It's just that now my upper body is completely removed from the equation. Now it feels different when we sit up like that. The muscles engage differently, for sure. I feel more quads when I do this. But you remember, the fact that my body's torquing a little bit like this, my upper body, means that the hips are engaging. I can stabilize that by grabbing the back of the handlebar. I mean, back of the seat, right? But when I release that, okay, let's come back down to our handlebars. Keep your shoulders nice and loose away from the ears. Actively let them down. Let's think to ourselves now, how long could we hold this effort if we absolutely had to? I would like that answer to be in the 7 to 10 minute range. Adjust your resistance if it's not that, one way or the other. It's a nice, moderate to moderately hard kind of effort that challenges the muscles. We'll definitely get the heart rate coming up. Breathing's definitely picking up now. What if I told you we're going to hold this about another minute or so? Feel free to adjust your resistance to make that possible without making it an extremely hard effort. Just stay as centered as you possibly can, using the sensation of the muscles. Noticing your points of contact with the bike. I've noticed my muscles feel very different now. Very different. There's a warmth coming from them now. In 3, 2, And 1. Now dial your resistance back. Yeah, there's just like this infrared warmth in my muscles now. Before it felt like a cold, I don't know, old machine. cranking, scraping. Now it feels warm and smooth. Okay, good. Drink up your water. Always drink. No matter what. So now we're going to commence a hill climb. So keep your resistance low right now. Keep it low. Let's gather our breath. Let's set our intention. And let's get ready for a very challenging couple minutes, 3 to 4 minutes maybe. Process that number and then let it go. We're going to be fully in the moment. Started with seated climbing. We're going to feel that effort in the legs. We're going to notice the thoughts in the head as we start that effort to make sure we're really in a hill. So coming back to your handlebars now, I place my hands to the middle. I always do this when I'm climbing in the seated position. Let's find a cadence in the 60 to 70 range, one that feels comfortable to you. Again, if you don't have a computer, just watch my legs. And let's adjust the resistance so it feels just like we have entered into a challenging hill. We're going slow on the bike because the hill's steep. We're pedaling 60 to 70 RPM, and each pedal stroke requires a great deal of power. And ideally, we can feel this in the hips now. So if you don't feel that, try to get those hips a little loose. Allow the lower back to brace the hips, and you can push with your glutes. This is where the sweat may appear. This is where it's very important that we keep our upper body relaxed. There's no need to waste energy, no need to bring tension or rigidity to the upper body. Just breathe through a relaxed belly. And if your mind right now is saying, oh my gosh, this is really hard, I wonder how long I have to hold this, that's perfect. That's a hill. Now we're going to make it even harder. We're going to stand up. And when we do that, we add even more resistance to the point where you can't pedal seated anymore. So that standing part is hard. That's why we do it for such a short period of time. Make it extremely challenging. In 3, 2, 1. Add that extra heavy resistance and ease your body weight out onto the pedals. See how much of it you can get through the glutes as you step into the pedal stroke. Try to take some away from the quads. We don't want this to be all quad. Now ease back your resistance, come back into the seated position. Still climbing. It might be nice right now to check to see where your gaze is falling. Ideally, it's falling right out 10 feet ahead of you or so. That means you're relaxed. It means your body and your spine are very neutral. Let the belly relax to breathe. We're coming up again in 3, in 2, and 1. Again, crank your resistance. Again, ease out onto the pedals. Now back to seated climbing. In 3, 2, and 1. Come on back to light resistance. Good climb. If you can, at this very moment, do a quick analysis of your breathing by placing your out-of-breathness on a scale of 1 to 10. It's a useful practice to get yourself back to your body, back to the body. After a climb like that, you might not even notice you're out of breath. You might start thinking about other things. Coming back to the body by just putting a number 1 to 10 on that breath. It doesn't even matter, really, what that number is. What matters is that you're doing it. Mine, by the way, was probably 7. If we'd kept that up another couple minutes, it would have been 8 or 9. I was pushing it, but it's recovering now. That's good. All right, return to our handlebars. We don't want to get cold or anything. Add into a gear that feels light, but in the working zone. And let's just bring our leg speed back to 90 RPM. We're going to kind of stop that decline in the heart rate. So I don't want this to be painful right now. I don't want it to be really uncomfortable, but I want you to feel like, okay, after that hill, I'm back on a flat road now. My legs are a little tired, but I'm going to keep moving with intention. That's the feeling I want right now. I'm going to adjust my resistance a little bit to better dial that feeling in. And let's make sure we're working on being smooth. Let's make sure that our shoulders are away from the ears. Let's make sure our hands are light on the handlebars. When I said triangle before, what I mean is that from your hands to your shoulders is one leg of the triangle. From the neck down to the sit bones is another. Right? That's a triangle. And we want the hands all the way up through the shoulders to be relaxed, because to lock them then makes that one arm of the triangle stiff, which then translates into the other one being stiff, your spine, which then translates to your hips, bouncy on the saddle. So that's what I meant by triangle. I see that from the side. The arms, the back. Yeah, my breathing is no longer slowed down. It is actually picking up a little bit now. Perfect. All right, you ready to go up to 100 RPM with me? We're going to go up to it and stay there about a minute. So keep your resistance light. We're going to work on suppleness, smoothness, fast pedaling hips staying very solid. Steady on the saddle in 3, 2, 1. Come on up, 100 RPM. Just notice the challenge of keeping those hips stable. Just notice it. That's body awareness. To notice that is to be aware of your body. Breathing. What's this doing to your breathing? Another way to practice body awareness. Mine's picking up. It's a real challenge to stay smooth and supple at these higher pedal speeds. In 3, and 2, and 1. Now let's just let our legs slow and grab some water. Drink up. I'm just turning up my music a little bit. We're going to do a series of sprints now. Each one will be short in duration, 10 to 15 seconds. But we're going to be at high pedal speed, 100 or a little above. Extra heavy resistance so that the effort feels like we just could not continue it for 40 seconds, 45 seconds total. We're going to apply our knowledge of being relaxed and supple in the saddle to the application of that kind of huge power at high pedal speeds. We'll get about 45 seconds rest in between each. So fear not, we'll reduce our resistance way down to light. Slow the legs down, gather our breath, drink some water. Then we'll set the attention, return to the handlebars, and do our sprint. It's a lovely chance to tune into the muscles of the legs working and to feel the effort. It's a beautiful opportunity. Okay, let's get ourselves into a nice cycling position, starting with your neck, go down the spine, check your shoulders, hands, elbows. Get yourself relaxed in a beautiful cycling position. Set your intention. Our first sprint now is coming up. I'll count it down. In 3, 2, 1. Accelerate your legs up to around 100. Add the resistance. And this now feels like an effort you couldn't hold 45 seconds. I'm grimacing. And slow your legs, reduce your resistance. Sit up if you feel like it. This music sounds like those recordings in utero of the blood flow, doesn't it? Have you ever heard those? That was one sprint. You got 2 or 3 left in you? I know that sounds like a lot right now. Take it one at a time. This is our active recovery. This is our water drinking. This is letting the heart rate come down a little bit. The muscles recover a little bit. All right. Let's return to our handlebars. Again, check your body posture. Release tension in the upper body. Think of decoupling the lower body and the upper body. In 3, 2, 1. Accelerate the legs. Add the resistance. Slow your legs, reduce your resistance. Put a number on your breathing right now. Think to yourself, could I have held that another 30, 35 seconds? Your answer influences how much resistance you add the next time. 2 more to go. Halfway done with those. Just like that. All right, recenter. Come back to your handlebars. In 3, 2, 1. Add the resistance. Bring your pedal speed up. And reduce your resistance and slow your legs. I found myself biting my lip that time, like that. Just noticing that. One more to go. One more. Our legs are more tired than they were at the first one. You might need to use less resistance. You might feel better now and can use a little more resistance. You might use the same resistance and maybe pedal just a little faster. Make sure you keep it below 110. Just sense what feels right to you. I think I'm going to add a little bit extra resistance. All right, to our handlebars. Quick body scan. In 3, and 2, and 1. Come on up, final sprint. I was looking down. I'm changing my gaze out to 10 feet. I noticed I was looking down. All right, slow your legs. Reduce your resistance. I'm so out of breath. Or maybe whales, but it's so rhythmic. I'm thinking that's the sound of the blood pulsing through the arteries. one hard effort, one hard work piece before we start to cool down. We're going to do an out of the saddle acceleration from flat road work. Not flat road lazing around, flat road work. 90 RPM with a gear that feels like work. And then we're going to shift to a harder gear and stand up into it at high RPM. First things first, find a gear, get your legs to 90 RPM or thereabouts, and let's feel like we're on a ride together and we're working hard. You're right here. And we're like, how you feeling? Yep. I'm at a level where I'm working. And before we stand up, take this opportunity right now. Just check with your hips, your lower back. Feel the glutes driving through the heel over the top. Breath is picking up already from this. Don't worry, we won't stay here a long time. We're going to turn now to our standing acceleration. I'll count you down from 4. Then add some gear, not as heavy as standard climbing, but add some gear that you can stand up onto at this fast pedal speed. All right, here we go. In 4, 3, 2, and 1. And reduce your resistance down to light. Slow your legs. That one was uncomfortable. And that got my heart rate at the highest of the class just then. So we're into cool down now. Our goal is to allow the body to recover. And while we're doing that, I'd like to remind you, because it's a pleasant thought, that those working muscles over the last 38 minutes or whatever released growth factors into the blood, and that then distributed them around the body. Healthy little proteins are now circulating throughout your body and getting into your brain because of all of what we just did. We just boosted our health in many different ways. And we boosted our brain health, which means we boosted our mental health. Those little proteins are able to cross the blood-brain barrier, stimulate neurogenesis in the brain. And also by practicing our mindfulness and our body awareness, we reduce the stress response in the brain. So we're so much more healthy right now because of all of this, and I want you to keep that in mind as we're allowing the body to cool down. Go ahead and take a little resistance out and slow your legs even more, noticing what your breath is doing. Noticing how your leg muscles are starting to feel better. Today would have been another vinyl night. I would have headed to the studio at about 3, would have vacuumed Use my Sprayway glass cleaner on the door to the cycling room and the front doors, and the front windows. I would have used my Swiffer on the floor so it smelled nice. I loved those. Even though I was tired by Friday afternoon, I very often took a nap and woke up thinking, oh my gosh, can't believe I have to do this tonight. Always, always, always. Once I was in and cleaning and getting the record ready, I was excited. And it was fun and energized. Alright, slow your legs down even more. Notice where your breathing is. If you're at 1 or 2 on that scale of out of breathness now, feel free to let your legs just stop. And take a couple of deep breaths. Feel your belly expand as you do that. All right, let's stretch our calves by standing up and putting our heels at our feet at 3 and 9 o'clock and dropping their heels. Now rotate the back foot to the front and drop your heels again. And now let's swing a leg over the bike. And standing next to the bike, holding onto it if you'd like for balance. Grab one of your ankles and pull back and feel that stretch in the quad. Quads. And now let's pull back on the other leg. Just feeling the stretch in the quadriceps. Now let's stretch our hamstrings. And now let's go to the other leg. Well, we had a nice ride today. Good job. I'll leave the music going here for a couple minutes for you. And you're welcome to drink your water and continue stretching a little bit. And then I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.